Hello, and welcome to the 11th episode of Last Attempt, a World of Warcraft Guildcast. I'm your host, Squirrelthug, and with me again today is Shakatan
What up?
and Templar Ivanhoe.
What up, Yins?
Today, we've got quite a bit of news. We're going to cover the patch 12.0.5. Its drop date has been announced, and there's been a blue post that shows us a few of the things that we can come to expect with this, along with some of the other things that we've announced here on the podcast in a couple of the episodes, namely the thing Templar Ivanhoe has been really looking forward to, the transmog for the sword. I believe that's 12.0.5, right?
Yes, sir.
And Rygus, our raid leader, has been looking forward to being able to change the color of his eyes for his Demon Hunter. He's Demon Hunter main, so he's looking out for that. And 12.0.5 is going to bring that in as well. We got some April 9th hotfixes we're going to go over, and there is a Devour Affix update, and this makes it a little bit easier for a lot more classes to get rid of. So we'll go into the details on that. Mythic BOEs are now bind on equip. They've changed over, and there's an article that was dropped by Wowhead that kind of points into a really easy, not really a guide, but just kind of pointing out exactly where you can get to a general in March on Quel'Danas without killing Bellaran. So you don't have to get locked to the instance or anything, and you can possibly farm this general for a BOE. Get your, I think it's like 2 to 4 million for those mythic BOEs, so it could be really good for your guild. So for this week, as we've been keeping ourselves busy in the World of Warcraft, what have you been up to, Shakatan?
Not a whole lot, to be honest, other than raiding with you guys because I've had a serious work week and I'm just kind of drained throughout the whole week. I just needed some mythics to run, and we've been progressing on Ilaria and heroic, and that's about it. I don't really have too much to say.
Okay, it's been a chill week in Azeroth then. Been taking it easy.
Yeah.
And Templar, have you been doing? You're usually really busy with professions, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to keep busy with the professions, but unfortunately, I've been busy IRL as well. Especially was helping my dad basically redo his outside shed, and so haven't had much time myself. But the one thing that I've been doing is still just popping in, doing the getting the profession knowledge in order to continue to level things up, because the more professional knowledge, the more things I can do, especially as we're heading into not just heroic Illyria, but we're getting to the point where we're going to probably start doing Mythic soon, at least for the Void Spire. So we want to try to get the knowledge points for flasks, as well as any enchants or even some gear. I know I can, like, a few people have been asking, if I could make some leather gloves and stuff, which unfortunately I was specking into mail, but because they need it, starting to spec into leather. So even though I'm not really in the game too
That's
much,
good to hear.
yeah, I'm still, trying to take care of things so we have everything that we need.
You're definitely like pretty hardcore about it, man. You're like one of our like main crafters, It's like anytime anybody's in our crafting channel, they're always, and I always send people to you as well. If somebody asks in the guild, I'm like, just tag temp in on the crafting orders.
Yeah, I have like a 90% chance of having it.
Yeah,
But
that's pretty
Yeah,
good,
the
bro.
fact that you get all of them it's amazing. It's basically the coverage that you have. Much larger guilds struggle to get that coverage, right?
hmm
So, and we get it all in one person. This is great.
I will say the only things I don't have are some of the more expensive recipes that are like random drops from whether it's raid or delves. I know Shell Billy wanted me to make him the boots, and fortunately, not only do I not have the recipe, but the cheapest that you can buy it on any of the realms is like 115,000 gold. So it's a wee bit expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up there for some of these. I've been wanting to level my engineering, and I have engineering on every single on my main and every single alt. So I just level it up, and whoever plays whatever expansion, I level up engineering on them, and it allows me to go down different trees, simultaneously.
Hmm.
But I don't really ever do any other crafting professions, usually just the gathering ones.
Yeah, and gathering is a perfectly fine way to, sort of make golds just as you're playing, and um, and you always have something with you. In other words, you always have something to sell, or you always have something to use if you need it to, like, ask me or someone else to craft. Um, for me, it's not just about the crafting, but the making gold. Unfortunately, just because of being busy and stuff, I haven't been online to like reset the auctions, but that's where I come from, where I have all of the non-gathering professions, leveled up and everything.
Okay, so yeah, so that's like tied into the sort of auction house goblin
Hmm.
gameplay loop.
Exactly.
That does seem to be a really big part of the game for a lot of people, and I think if I had more time, I would love to check that out because like it seems like I've gotten a really cool item and I've sold it, and I've had to like play around on the auction house a little bit with the pricing and pulling it off, putting it back on, getting undercut, and and it was kind of cool. I think
Hmm.
it'd be cool to experience that more often than just the random time I get a BOE.
Right. Exactly. It is a lot of fun, and but it does require a lot of sort of like not just knowledge, but knowing that, like, let's say TSM says this item is worth, I don't know, 2,000 gold. But in reality, if you look the item up, you'll see the sale rate is like zero point 0 something, like 0.08. That
Okay,
means,
yes. How do you see sale rate? I've always, when I see things on the market, that's my first thought is like, sure, you have it posted for 200,000, but how many times it's selling for that?
right, the easiest way is whenever you're in Trade Skill Master, and if you have it installed, it'll put tooltip or an extra section in your tooltip for an item. Um, I don't remember if it's default or not, but basically, if you push and hold the Alt key, it will have extended information, and part of that you'll see is like the region market sale average, and the higher that is, let's say from a scale from um, I think it's like 0.001 to like 1.0 or something. The higher it is and the closer it is to 1.0, the more they sell and the faster they sell.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find an example. Here we go. So the region sale rate, for example, for the Harnar file of ingenuity is 0.154. So that tells me that it sells, not only quite a lot, but it sells at a high rate. It also shows me the region average daily sold. That's, how many are sold per day is 1,281.5. So at
Nice.
least 1,200 of those are sold per day.
So is it aggregating this data from other people? Like, like anybody using that add-on is sending their data that basically it's, gathering and putting in, all this information together for everybody to kind of know?
My understanding is it's done by the people who develop Trade Skill Master. It used to be that players would use, say, Auctionator, and they would scan the whole auction house. And when you scan the auction house, it put it in its own little database per person who did it. Whenever Blizzard moved away from, I think it was either Cataclysm or maybe Mists, eventually they sort of locked it so you couldn't do that scanning anymore on a per user. But what they did is they allowed you to use their APIs to scan it directly from them outside of the game. So what Trade Skill Master does is they have their own servers and they scan the auction house, and I don't believe you send data so much as they just scan it on their end, send the data to you, and then it updates
Oh,
in your install. Like there's an extra program. But they also have a paid service if you want to, where you have more advanced ways of gathering data. So it's almost more like the stock market if you pay for it, where you can actually
yeah, that's
see
crazy.
more like of the commodities and stuff like that. And I don't go that far because that becomes more like an actual job. Um, but that's how it gets updated like every hour. So every hour, if you do a slash reload and you're playing the game, usually an updated set of the auction house data will come into it.
Huh.
So yeah, I just use that to gather and see what sells. And of course, certain potions sell, certain blacksmithing items sell. It just depends.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that it was so detailed, but hearing that it's just API access from outside the game, that it makes so much more sense that they would have a website dedicated to that.
Right.
And like, well, I know that it does sound like it might be expensive. It's not. I can't imagine that it is to run those servers and to get that data, right? To serve
Hmm.
them to the public for a free website, that's probably costing them more than it is to like run that server to get that data, which is actually really cool because it means they have got, this really cool monetization model where if you're really into this part of the game, you can get really up to date data and try and go in there in the game and like play the market, which people really love to do.
Oh yeah, totally. And I also like it because what you can then do is something again. I haven't really played too much on the auction house since Dragonflight, but what you can do then is use the gold, buy WoW tokens, and pay for your month of WoW, which is always sort of the goal, at least for me. Um,
That's a real deal right there. It's
mhm,
because there's actual, monetary value now to it, right?
Not just
right,
World of Warcraft items, right? Like I think it's
correct.
the entire Blizzard store. So even when Diablo comes out with a new expansion and there's housing decor in there, like,
So
hey,
they
go get
they
it, you know?
used to allow you to use it for expansions. I can't remember if you can anymore, but
I
more
believe Kyressa
recently,
just got
it's
this
okay.
one.
I do know that nowadays they do limit that on certain items. I can't
Okay.
remember exactly which ones, but yeah, nowadays they have some sort of limit for that. Um, that you can't use BattleNet balance, but I guess they got to make money somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah, anybody listening, just beware. It's not 100% of the Blizzard store, but it is a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
It's like all the mounts, all the cool cosmetic stuff, subscriptions, a lot of cool
Exactly. Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, it's really cool that and that's kind of really just World of Warcraft, right? Like there's not really a good way to make gold or some sort of reversible currency in any of the other games that you can then come and spend on the marketplace that allows you to buy a Diablo asset, right? Like or like some cool stuff for Hearthstone.
Right. It used to be though. Diablo 3 did have the real money
Oh, that
auction
got
house.
shut down so fast.
Yeah, that went
Dude, people
into.
abuse the yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it made sense that it was supposed to be the answer to what was already happening in the game before, right? And they were trying to like
Hmm.
get a hang of it. And I definitely think that was a good approach or a good mindset that they had. Um, but almost in the sense of, um, I was thinking about this recently, like child restrictions on certain things, right? Like
Hmm.
security, and there's not a lot of that in there. There's like parental controls on outside the game and limiting how many hours you play. And there's like a couple things that you can do, but like basically it seems that Blizzard in that sense has had a hands-off approach, right? And has not really done very much in terms of like giving even a parent like a lot of control over like how their child can interact with the game and some of the things like you could write an add-on that could do a lot of that stuff. um but and like log certain things, right? But they just don't do that. So kind of in the same way that's not really something. I think that's something that would just cost them much more money and more liability if they were to try to focus on that, right? It's almost like the same thing.
Right, and using the gold and making it into balance or game time, you're not dealing with actual money, if that makes sense. Um, in other words, it's not like cryptocurrency or something,
Yeah, it's already a digital currency. Like you've
Right.
already bought the tokens, right? Like in the same way that you can then use those tokens. It's how all the microtransactions are working in Fortnite and Call of Duty, all these games.
Right.
If you ask me, it's like if you want to get to that Ready Player One state, right? They're already like something like this type of system is already kind of going in that direction where you could your game time, your play time, how you achieve things, you could even go broader, right? And if people spend a lot of time in all these virtual worlds, and who knows what happens in the future, but working with a auction house and in-game assets and selling them, for items that you can get in game to help your, to you don't have to be helping your character, but it could get to that point of like buying certain things because of like your playtime or selling stuff on the auction house. It could creates a whole complete virtual, like real virtual world, right? Where people are now really living a second life, right?
I think all
In
you would
inside of
need
a game.
is, let's say, I mean, obviously Apple would never do this, and people would never participate in it with Apple because they've been greedy, and that is not a cool thing to do to your marketplace. However, they have a large marketplace and they got a lot of games on there. So if Apple were to open this thing up where they have a digital currency and they made it part of the standard for building, because they got a lot of standards for building software and putting it on the marketplace, like it's really hard to get stuff on there. And so they'll just add another standard for support for a digital currency. And the digital currency, right, initially is just you're buying it from Apple, you're spending it on these games. Maybe Apple gets more of a cut this way, kind of thing. Maybe it works out that way. But if they also allow it so that the games themselves can then request Apple servers like, oh, hey, like I have this currency from these players. I'd like to exchange it for something, back
Yeah.
into currency in their account. And then
I
now
hope
they can buy stuff. I would never do it for Apple. I would never play games on their
I was gonna say
marketplace. I would never do that. But if
I would
somebody,
hope it wouldn't be Apple. Yeah.
Steam, maybe Steam, right? That Steam's
Yeah.
probably got a much closer to be in that position. They've
Right.
created the Steam
Apple's like
OS.
IOI, right?
Yeah,
Innovative Online Industries
I'm
from Ready
not
Player
okay with
One.
Apple. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
yeah,
what I mean?
right.
They're
I
gonna be like
definitely
the
want to.
villain.
I definitely want to make it the statement. I just use it as an example because they're just the biggest company I know of that's got a lot of marketplace
Yeah, dude.
assets, right? But yeah, Steam would be the same, right? I think Steam is actually in a much better position to do something because they only focus on
Yeah.
games, And
Hmm.
if they were to do something like that, and so far they've been pretty democratic with some of their stuff, like they
Oh
picked
yeah.
Steam OS, right? Like that's a really good
And then,
example, and
dude, then they've
I
got
think that would be
they've
good.
got the trading, they've got their trading game going there. You know what I mean? They got all kinds of like little assets from like all the different games and like trading different weapon skins and all kinds of stuff. Like, they have like their own uh online marketplace, right? Where people are doing trades and stuff for even for real money and valuable items and whatnot. I guess like it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 10 years if we're seeing a lot of companies get pulled together, right? First it was Blizzard, then Blizzard Activision, now it's Microsoft Blizzard, you know what I mean? Now it's like
Yeah,
all that whole thing is now together, and now Warner Brothers is being pushed into Paramount. You're seeing like these huge entertainment companies
everything's
kind of like,
amalgamating,
yeah,
it's
getting
all
together.
condensing,
Right.
consolidating all this this power, right? But
And
Hmm.
usually
it would,
our government stops that, right? Like we get in the middle of
well,
those things.
the thing is, I think it would I think it would benefit all these companies to eventually, if they really wanted to do something, like especially in the virtual space, in the entertainment virtual space, to get together somehow and know that it's going to profit all of them, right? To do this type of thing, to create these like online worlds that could
I think companies like
easily work
Facebook definitely
within
want to do that,
together. You know,
right? Facebook's
yeah,
got
I
the
think
money to
that's
do
what Facebook
something
wanted to do with Meta,
with
with their
Metaverse. They
Meta
definitely
space
wanted
and all
to.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't trust Facebook. I wouldn't want Facebook
Right? And that's the
for
biggest
Meta
thing
to
for
do
a
it.
lot of this. I think the
Yeah.
best way forward for something like this, or at least the fastest way forward for something like this, is to once again lean into the community, lean into open source, right? If we let's say there's a really big game or really large platform or widely used platform, and somebody creates a game with Unreal Engine, and they create something within their game, the tool set, something that helped them develop their game. They just release those tools like people used to do back in the day. And what this then allows is not only is Unreal Engine the engine that they would be using, right, which wasn't a situation before, the engine is available. So now you get the engine for free because you could just use Unreal. Then you get this tool set that this AAA company has developed, which then allows you to make your own assets, your own anything. And then they also within that tool set have a very specific pipeline that's in there that allows you to basically run your game through, or like do just certain checks to make sure that, like, you're supporting a wide range of like this standard, right? There's a standard that you
Right.
have that's being built because you have the tool set that allows you to check by those standards. And now
Right.
you just developing your game with a free Unreal Engine and this democratization tool to then go grab whatever assets you want. This thing is going to, make sure that you're within the parameters of what you need to be. And now you support all of their assets and they support
Right.
all of your assets. And nobody has to think about it,
Dude,
right?
I
And
know
then now,
the sad thing about all of that is that I think the corporations themselves still value, like, things like intellectual property, and they have patents on things, and they want to keep these things, and insider stuff, and
yes,
like
but it only
truly
takes
like a
one.
system that had to work that way would be more open source.
I mean,
You know,
realistically, that's
it would
what
be like
Valve is
independent
actually doing.
developers.
That's
Open source, independent.
I feel like if somebody's going to do something like that or go down that line, it's going to be Steam. Right? We got the Steam OS, we have the Steam Marketplace. We got. I
Right.
feel like if we keep if these people stay in the position they are in, the other people are competing with them, and they just see the competition as good, right? Like they released the Steam OS open source for everyone to use, even their competition. And now what happened? Immediately we have hardware hitting the stores, competing with the Steam Deck, bringing those prices down. It's miraculous. It's wonderful. It's the opposite of greed, right?
Yeah, I was going to say if anybody's doing it, it's definitely Valve. I mean, a lot of people see the Steam OS and think, that's where all the development has gone, but really in the back end, they've been working with, their Proton, which is a modified wine for Linux, as well as their own modifications to VK-D3D, which translates Direct 3D 12 to Vulkan. And you can even see whenever they announced the new Steam box, they were also announcing the new Steam VR goggles, and they were releasing a bunch of other tools to assist people in sort of readapting uh, the their own VR games for it. The reason being that they were giving away the ability to basically cull certain graphics whenever you're not looking at them, which would save resources in the background. And it's one of the reasons that VR can be really hard to develop for. And it's not just necessarily for if you're developing something with like that runs on something from Valve, it's, anybody can use it to redevelop their games and sort of adapt them to use for the new Steam VR goggles and such.
I know that's a technology that they boast for the Unreal Engine, and I think it's been around for a little while. But it's interesting that they perhaps maybe there was some more um, technology that they needed to develop on the VR side of that, because like whatever your camera can see, they sort of have like this sort of like ray tracing thing like they do with
Right.
lighting, and anything that breaks the line of sight like is just gone, and it doesn't get rendered in certain things. But I think that's only with like polygons and certain lower end engines maybe.
Yeah, I'd have to look up the Gamers Nexus video again on how they described it, but it's also a matter of that they're actually doing estimations in the background on, like, where your eyes are going to sort of preempt what you need to load. So they're actually
Oh,
tracking
and
where your eyes are
new
moving
ray
to.
tracing audio, where audio is like bouncing around like light, and so just but like at like a
Well,
lower frequency shit, you know.
Mhm.
I think
back
that's
in the
amazing.
day in BSP engines, they used to use clipping planes. You know, you'd like when you were a map builder, you're building your
Right.
map, and you'd have clipping planes that would basically not render any geometry. And they usually did them in a really smart way of like when you went through like a tunnel around a curve, right around a corner, and right around that corner there'd
Halo
be
did
some
that.
diagonal clipping plane. And so once you pass through that plane, or you could see through, you know what I mean? You could see through it. Then the rest of that area would get, created, right? And then
Mhm.
anything behind that plane gets, pretty much dumped at that point, unless you turn around, immediately, and then it's going to start rendering that stuff again to save on the math, right? It's like just
Right.
saving on the math. That's
Yeah, so
what's
you're
going
not
to be
rendering the
viewable to the
entire
player,
map.
right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and then it's a much more performant game. I think, yeah, I think that's something we can look forward to, coming up in the future, because a lot of people are, more indie developers are getting access to powerful tools, and we're just gonna get some pretty cool stuff now. I just hope Valve, like you were saying, just kind of keeps going with what they're doing.
Well, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was just recently announced that they are using. If anybody uses Linux, one of the developers from Valve are using what are called C groups to prioritize certain applications on Linux, to where if you're running, say, a game, it'll prioritize not only the game in terms of CPU resources, but more importantly, GPU resources. And it won't evict GPU memory into system memory, and which is allowing in their tests to run, believe it or not, Cyberpunk 2077 with 8 gigs of RAM.
No,
And I think it was with Steam Play though. So, but the key was the fact that they were evicting instead, say, Firefox or Chrome's memory into system memory, but making sure that Cyberpunk was taking up all the GPU RAM.
I like that. That means that it looks like I'm going to be playing Cyberpunk on my Linux distro
Yeah,
pretty
it's
soon.
it's pretty crazy.
Because that's not something that like I could do with Windows, is it?
No, and I should and again, let me specify: it's not necessarily running it at max ray tracing, etc., with just 8
Yeah,
gigs
but
of
it's
RAM.
still running it. You're
But
still getting it.
yeah, but
Um,
but an 8 gigabyte GPU is kind of insane in the fact that they were able to allow Cyberpunk to take up all the GPU RAM, while forcing everything to say, hey, let's use system RAM for this.
I like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that once we're hitting ceilings on like RAM and such, right? That we're gonna. I think like people were talking about the technology is just gonna broaden, right? We're
Better utilization.
yes, we're
Yeah,
not
I
going to keep
mean,
moving up. We're just going to move outwards more parallel to where we are, instead of like rising kind of like on that graph, right? Like, because we hit a ceiling,
right.
and we knew that we were going to hit a ceiling with a lot of stuff, given that like silicon can only, do so much. And then, new technologies are always being brought up. So I think we're looking at some really powerful like hardware coming pretty soon.
Definitely. And I know that for as far as the memory is concerned, they're also working on, instead of DDR, there's a new type of where instead of it laying, it's technically perpendicular whenever you insert the RAM, it's sort of vertically, that they're going to be laid down in a parallel. The reason being it's faster, and it gets closer to the board, and just, I don't know. It's very interesting how things are playing
Is it
out.
a new form factor?
Yeah, it's both a new form factor and sort of, instead of going to, what are we on, DDR5, instead of going on to DDR6, I think, what is it? Something like cap. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, it's a completely different form factor, and they do have some test motherboards out in the wild. Uh, is it Cam 2? let's see. Yeah, it's called CAM2, which is compression attached memory module. And so, it's going to be solving quite a few different problems just by way of, its manufacture and everything.
And price point's going to be lower too.
I believe so, but I think so. This is technology, however, that's been in development for years before the AI RAM shortage. So I believe it's supposed to be assuming this chaos wasn't going on, it should be. But
Yeah, hard to tell.
yeah, it's hard to tell, but it looks like like an extra, like a almost like a Raspberry Pi right next to the CPU instead of the normal DDR RAM.
Interesting.
All right, so yeah, this is now a technology podcast.
Well, I will say all these things affect WoW, so
They absolutely do. They do. The servers that this is all getting run on, the hardware that's getting bought up by these companies, like what the consumer market, what's available to them, it determines what is being developed. I typically for this podcast, I look up news that's tangential to Microsoft and its business dealings because some of these things can have an effect on what happens. For example, right? Because this is like just off the side. There was this like this digital act that we had for not taxing goods and such like as they like cross borders, right? So like subscription purchases for like World of Warcraft, right? Subscriptions, software purchases and such, like they're taxed at a completely different way rate than like physical goods, right? But the problem that a lot of smaller countries have tried to point out for a really long time is that as they move forward into like the future, into the modern world, and they try to modernize their countries, they have less and less physical goods to export and rely more and more on digital goods. And with this act being in place, they were not allowed to tax at a higher rate as they would have for physical goods. And as they're making the transition from physical to digital, which is their pathway, or a lot of people's, smaller countries' pathway to modernization, they're hitting like
right.
big speed bumps, right? And so it's almost really unfair to them. And I can see an argument against that. So it only had a certain time limit, and I think like a year ago, like it's done, right? And so some of the bigger countries, so like United States, Germany, right? Like these larger countries got together and they're like, hey, we're still cool with this. Like we like the way this is going, so we're still going to do what we're doing. But a lot of the smaller countries are like, no, I'm not signing that again. Like that's not happening, and we're not going to take part of it. So we're gonna do whatever we want, which, mind you, might not necessarily make a difference for World of Warcraft like as it stands right now, but it is something that could have an effect on Microsoft and some of the things that they're doing in certain countries and where they're operating, right? And so some of those things can have an effect on our game because we are now attached to Microsoft and we have to consider that. So yeah, no, all of this is really good information. So it's really good for our listeners to know about these things because we wouldn't want to get blindsided by something crazy that's happening on the other side of the world that had been happening for 3 years, and then it just comes to fruition. But yeah, speaking of World of Warcraft news, like we had said earlier, we had the 12.0.5 content update, and this goes live April 21st. I believe Templar had pointed that out maybe on the last podcast. We have quite a few things that are coming into this. We have Void Assaults, so it's going to be this new outdoor world event that's happening, kind of almost like similar to the pre-launch event, right? Where we have like these void entities kind of assaulting. I think what was Twilight Highlands was where we had the event.
Yeah, I think they're similar also to, like, for example, the Legion Assaults. BFA had them as well.
Yes. The Hollow Fault stuff too, and the War Within.
You'll be moving. It seems that you'll be moving around, like ritual sites, and when you disrupt Naga and Twilight Blade cultists, and then there's like tiered difficulty with scaling rewards, and they count towards the Great Vault world row. alongside delves and prey. So if you take part in these new assaults, you'll still be working towards one of your rows for your Great Vault. So you're not really going to be missing out on anything. I think it's a nice overlap there. I imagine that the Void Assaults are going to be only for this patch. It's kind of be a limited thing. So definitely take a look. Wowhead will probably have an article on this that shows you exactly what kind of items and transmog and mounts and anything else that you can get from this. I'm sure there's going to be quite a bit of things that come with that. Coming now is the Void Forge. And if you've been raiding and you've been doing your weekly quest with Dominar Decimus, you have been sort of giving him the materials that he needs to create this Void Forge. You're gonna help him create a hammer as well. It's like a forge hammer, and the hammer is going to allow you to create or upgrade a
Upgrade.
piece of gear to a higher item level than what it is currently capable of doing, right? So if you have like mythic gear and it caps out at, I actually don't know what it caps out. It's like an 89 or something, right?
I think it's around 289, somewhere
So
around
let's
there.
say it does cap out at 289, and you can't get it any higher. You've already spent all the mythic crest. You're 6 out of 6. You go to the hammer, and you're able to forge this thing into a higher item level. If I'm not mistaken, somebody had mentioned doing the same thing to crafted gear, which normally crafted gear is locked in the item level you have unless you recraft it or do something weird like that, right? But this is a way to increase also that item level. And so it's just kind of generically like just across the board, just able to upgrade the item levels. But I think specifically only to things that are capped out. So it's either a crafted piece of gear that doesn't have any more to go, or another piece of drop gear that is already capped out 6 out of 6 for whatever track it's on. But alongside that is the Void Forge, which you will be able to unlock the ability to purchase or create these like void currencies. I forget what they're called, but you get 2 of them a week, and you can use one of them in a mythic dungeon boss, like which would actually be at the end of the mythic plus delve or dungeon, right? You get to the end, then you get your loot. That's the one chance that you have to get it. Whereas in raid, each time you kill a boss, there you will have the opportunity. The UI will pop up a window that allows you to spend 2 of your currency that week or whenever to roll on that boss's loot table. I believe it is the same as anything else. You're only going to be able to get that dialogue box when you get the other dialogue boxes. So let's say you've already done the first boss in Voidspire, and then you go and you get the 2 currency that you wanted, and you're like, oh, let me go back to the first boss in Voidspire and get that bonus roll. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to get that bonus roll when you're getting the roll. So if you've already gotten that boss, like you're not going to be eligible for loot from them. But the bonus roll is going to slowly eat away at everything that's dropped from it. And
Yeah.
eventually you will be able to get it, which is a really wonderful system. And I think pretty early in on the patch, right? Like right now as we speak, that the moment we step into Mythic, people can start going after maybe the first boss has something, some best in slot. That's a pretty good guarantee that you're gonna get something, right? Because it's like the most the most progress that we're gonna make, the most consistent progress we're gonna make is gonna be the first boss, right? So if you have a best in slot that you aim for there, you're kind of guaranteed to have that shot of getting the bonus roll each week and being able having the opportunity to spend it, and then eventually get that best in slot if it's available there.
Right. Yeah. I think it's gonna help people. You know, if you see how quick they're putting these patches out. I mean, 12.5 is coming out, then 12.7 with a new raid, right? It's like it's
Yeah,
getting people the gear that they need, including that hammer, right? That's going to upgrade pieces,
the Ascendant Nilhammer.
right? That raid is only going to have a few more pieces, but I guarantee they're going to be at a higher item level, right? Like, so to have the other stuff there, like to get you ready for that raid, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in a really good position. it's going to take a lot of stress off of raiders who are worried about, how they're going to get this piece of gear or that piece of gear. It's been, I think, unnecessarily stressful to like climb into the gear level that you want by the end of the season, right? Like not be given gear, but being able to have more control over it and get to where you want to be by
Oh
the end of
yeah.
the season is a good
Especially with
thing.
RNG of the vault, some people just get horrible vaults each week. They could be
Especially
running a
with the
dungeon for
bug
a
that's
long
been
time.
happening where
Yeah, it's
right
like,
where
Yeah.
some people only get wrists or only get weapons or only get
yeah,
trinkets. That's been and it's not just across the account, thankfully. um but whatever character it is on, it's basically been stuck like that since the beginning of the expansion, and we're like what, a month and a half in, and we don't have a fix for it yet, and that's got to
Hmm.
be brutal, right? The only way that you can get gear at that point is going in with your friends and having them funnel gear to you.
Yeah, and they even said that apparently raids don't really get affected by it just because of the way raids function in terms of loot.
Okay.
I'm not sure how accurate that is.
Oh, it's personal loot. That's what it is.
Okay.
Anytime you get personal loot, so Great Vault, Mythic Plus, LFR, World Bosses. Anytime you get personal loot, that's the system that's being affected by you or by that
you have
character.
to you have to wonder if Blizzard behind the scenes might be working on some sort of algorithm to actually not so it's not so RNG, right? But it's actually
Hmm.
something that is going to be beneficial to your player. They just haven't
Yeah.
quite worked it out yet, you know?
Mm-hmm. Which is why it's not just like a complete reversal of something, right?
Right.
Like the system might be very deeply integrated.
Right. I think behind the scenes they recognize that, um, some of that RNG of a vault could be week after week is just kind of heartbreaking to somebody that just constantly just never gets that item, right? And
Yeah,
so
because you still
maybe
have to
they
do
are
Mythic
cooking something
Plus
behind.
or Raid to take advantage of these
Mhm.
nebulous void cores, right? If you do not do Mythic Plus and you do not do raids on any level, and you're just doing delves and world stuff, and you're going after the vault, you're still in the same position, right? The Void Forge doesn't solve that problem for you. It's really just a solution
Right.
for Mythic players.
Hmm.
Right.
Along with 12.0.5, we are getting decor duels. I know that we've been kind of talking about this for a little
I'm
while,
excited about it.
and it's been coming. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've never played a prop hunt game, but I do want to go in with the guild, and kind of just go in there and just have some fun. On a Friday or like a weekend or something when we're not raiding, or like maybe right before raid. I don't know how long these games take. Once this drops, we'll take a look at it and see what the game kind of entails, and we'll report back with what it's like. But I think it's going to be a blast. So that's something that's real cool that we can look forward to. And we have a new event called Abyss Anglers. It's a
It's about
repeatable
time.
it's a repeatable underwater fishing event off the coast of Zoloman.
Mhm.
Spearfish, rack up points, earn dive equipment upgrades, and cosmetics. And yeah, you can basically like you get better diving equipment, so you can go deeper into the area that you're spearing fish in, and you get like better, cooler stuff down there. And I think transmog of a diving suit, which we've had in several instances, and I think even the trading post had a full set of diver suit that you could get like recently. So this will be
Just
a little bit
having
more of that.
just having the fishing events in general, I think you should have them at every expansion. We had a really good one in Dragonflight, and then the War Within. We're like, just like
Yeah.
raising our hands up, like, what happened? Like we had the Stranglethorn, thing that you can always go to, but like even more than that, I like the fishing events. I mean, you guys know I'll fish every like
Fishing is fun.
it's a nice thing to do. Yeah, just to kind of like
I like
go
fishing in
around.
classic. I don't do a
Um,
lot of it in retail, but I find myself fishing for hours in classic.
Now that they added the ability to now I can grab the fish with just pointing my cursor. I don't have to use my mouse anymore because I'm a controller player. So now they added the ability to I can just push a button.
Oh
and I
yeah,
can grab
you
the
can
fish
do the
now.
interact hotkey.
Yeah, dude. So,
Yes.
bro, dude.
Yeah,
it's like,
once even without a controller, that's really nice because you just aim the camera in that direction and you'll see the
grab.
icon pop up above it, and that's your
Yep.
you know that you can just hit the interact key, which you can
Such a
keybind.
such a
Wonderful.
nice quality of life
Beautiful
improvement.
quality of
Yeah.
life. I love it when they do stuff like that. Okay, very exciting that got brought up, right?
Yeah. More
Holly.
fishing stuff.
Holly Longdale, sure. Yes, definitely. But Holly Longdale was being asked some questions um, about controller support and what that means for players, and like, you know, it would take a lot in order for World of Warcraft to be able to truly lean into controller support. The controller support they've already put in, immaculate, wonderful, does an amazing job. And on top of that, we had an add-on developer who made was it controller?
Yeah.
What's it called? Controller something?
Console port.
Console
It's
port.
one guy, and
One dude, amazing. He did an
kudos to
amazing
him.
job.
What Blizzard needs to do is just hire that dude and work together.
Yes. Yes.
Just hire the console port add-on guy. I forgot his name. I used to know it, but it's on the
Especially
tip of my
now
tongue.
that
But yeah,
they've got so much access to all these other studios that have done exactly this, right? You know, and
yeah.
maybe not exactly with World of Warcraft's engine, but the things that they've run into and the ideas and the paradigm that you have to work on a project like this, like you just pull a lead from somebody else and put them on the staff, right? Like make sure
Oh,
that this
dude.
gets done right.
Yeah,
The great thing about go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Shaq, I'm surprised you forgot it. It's looks like it's by Monk Dev.
Yeah, Monk Dev. Yeah.
That name.
Well, it's MUNK. It's not right.
Okay.
It's not MONK.
Yeah,
It's
MUNK.
MUNK.
Yeah, that was okay, so what she was asking was how much would she asked directly the attendees, like, and the people who were like in the chat and stuff, like, hey, why don't you all tell me like how much you would engage with WoW on a controller, like how often would you play it if that was a thing. And that the response was described as overwhelmingly positive, though plenty of hesitant maybe answers and some outright declines. Longdale acknowledged full native controller support would be a big job, right? And so this is something that she stopped in the middle of the interview and interjected with her own question and flipped it and said, "Let me ask the audience." Actually,
Right.
And so what that tells me as somebody just listening and looking in on this is on Holly's mind. This is something she's talking about. This is something she's thinking about. This is something other people in the company and maybe Microsoft are also thinking about and trying to gauge and answer. Maybe this is like, hey, actually tell me right now, what do you guys think? And then she's going to take that, and there's probably a very recent upcoming meeting that she was going to have where she's going to go over that, right? And this is just this. It makes it seem to me that it's on her mind and she's thinking about these things. And we probably do have controller support coming pretty soon.
I can guarantee that there's Blizzard developers that have used console port, right? And the inclusion of it as an add-on in the game, like the level of quality of this add-on is like, if you ask me, it's like AAA quality. It integrates so well with the UI, with its own UI, that like works well within, like, let's just say like the WoW.
The only thing it doesn't do well
right?
is presets.
Right.
I've changed some things around with like visually what's actually like visibly available, and there's no like way to preset anything. And
preset by, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so let's say like when you have your controller things out, right? I don't want the second set of triggers. There's like the bumpers, first set of triggers that you can have an image on and shows you a spell, and there's the other set of triggers you can also show something and have a spell there, but I use them as modifiers, and so I take those off. But for every single character that I play, I go into the menu, I go down to the spot, I grab that thing, I remove it, make it invisible, and then
Hmm.
so there's another one where like I don't like how close both sides are. So the D-pad is on the left and the face buttons are on the right,
You can
and
space those out. You can move them
I
around.
yeah, and I do. And I do it manually. And then I go to my next character and it's like, ugh, this one's not set up that way either, so I have to drag those around. And there's no way to say global profile and have them all do the same thing, or to say very specific profile like LVUI or
There
you
is
know.
actually there is a general profile
I've used
and
it.
per
I've
per.
enabled it. I've done it. It just doesn't function for me. And I
Mm,
don't know if it's a bug or if it's an
there might be
oversight.
some bugs. There might be some bugs involved
I mean, it's
there.
only one
Yeah.
dude, so I totally understand. I just put up with it for now. But yeah, if he had a team, stuff like that would be. I imagine it would be worked out really well because for my UI stuff, I really like working really hard on my UI and then never having to do that again. Like that's been the paradigm that most add-on developers use when doing something with the UI is there's presets and then you can save all your different presets and just kind of switch
Right.
between them as you feel like whatever it is that you're doing, you know?
Right. I'm just, we're lucky. We're lucky that, I mean, Blizzard, if you're listening, just hire Monk Dev and just work with him, just work with him,
And you know what?
and
Even if
and
you
get it
have
done
someone
right.
in
Because
Microsoft that can do it, that's not the point here, right? The point is the recognition that the community sees that you care about the developers that are in this community, right? Like hire this person. It's not going to kill your overhead to put one community developer who's genuinely doing a good job and put them on your staff and give them a decent job, like a
dude,
consistent job, right?
take a tip from Valve and hire those good developers.
Mhm.
Like he's obviously a really good developer. We wouldn't have had Counter-Strike and Half-Life and all these other like titles in Half-Life if Valve didn't be like, you know what? You're going to work for us now and we're going to pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop that. And it's like you put that money behind it on a developer that's already doing it for free, and the just the quality of like what he's doing just by himself for free. It's like, bro, it's an easy win. It's an easy win. It's
Right.
like it's already there.
Yes, and again, I know that there are certain things that are different, right? On the front end of what you're doing with World of Warcraft add-ons is all Lua, and it's like this sort of like, right, you get a lot of XML in the menus and stuff. And when you look through all the data files that we have available, right, we have to download all this stuff and put it in our game files for updates and whatever. It's how we install WoW. We can look through all those files. There's like nothing secret about that, right? And that's how add-on developers do what they do. They go to the files and they look through them. And you look at how
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard implemented something on the front end here where we're actually looking at, right? So every time you
Right.
reload or you move into a new zone and you go through a loading screen, your entire UI is rebuilt like all from scratch, right? And so that's why if you were to do, if you let's say you make a change to a macro, I slash reload after every single macro I change, because it does the one part of the loop in rebuilding the UI is saving and backing up your macros and making them part of the file system as opposed to just like temporary change. Because if your game crashes in the middle of whatever you're doing or you get logged out because of a disconnect, those things don't save because you didn't go through a rebuild, a UI rebuild, right? So you have to
Mhm.
reload or go through a loading screen. It's just
Right.
kind of like the way that it works, right? But you can look at the UI elements that we have downloaded and understand what Blizzard is doing on the front end. But when we have things like details, right, that's using certain in-game events and such and things that are being announced and broadcasted, which is how Blizzard add-on development works. There's nothing that can just run on like a CPU cycle. It has to run on an event cycle. So it has to be triggered by an event and then it's like stopped by an event kind of thing, or some other functions. And so we have basically a way to understand like this really cool front end that they do, but no way to really understand the back end. And they can tell us some stuff every now and then, but developing for things requires like for both. And that's what I'm saying is like, even though like I get it, and there's probably maybe not much he could do in terms of like the full development of it, but he would be one person on a team anyways. Like even if you
I
think that
mean,
you have somebody better from Microsoft, from Xbox, from another division, I would say hire this developer because the community is going to see it and we're going to care about that. Like it's more
Yeah.
good faith, right? That we should be
What
doing, that
he's
Microsoft should
done,
be doing.
yeah, what he's done with that, regardless of like what's available to him through the API calls and Lua and stuff like that, his whole menu, like he knows what he's doing. He might have problems and stuff like that, but like if he was able to get like to be with their UI team and work with them, I'm almost certain, great things would happen. We'd have the ability, if you're using a controller on a lot of that stuff, there is problems. There is hiccups, that Blizzard is probably trying to figure out, like how do we like as a melee player, it's great. As a caster,
Yeah, not so
we're
great.
gonna have some problems. Quickly moving to specific targets to interrupt. You have to get really good. You have to play with it for a while
The
to get
targeting
really
system.
good at targeting.
The targeting
Um,
system for spells that you place, like the evoker's got a lot of them, but really even
mm,
like the monk putting your ring of
Ring of
peace
Peace.
down,
Yeah,
right?
I've gotten used to it. But
Putting
that's
as a druid, if I want to put down like oh god, I forget what it is, but it's like cyclone or something, right? And it just locks everyone in. I I have to. I'm right now. I just mouse over the environment. I have a macro that is at cursor, and that's fine. That's all I care about, right? Like I can even. It's really nice because I can even extend my mouse far past what the spell could even go to, and I know in my head that the default logic for it is as if I didn't have the macro, right? And if that was the case and my mouse cursor was far past it, it just puts it at the max range, right, in that
right.
direction. So like it's easy with the macro. I don't even have to think about it. I just point my mouse in a general direction and it just launches it at like the max range, and you get used to where it is from there. But that system of switching over to whatever that is for the targeting and such, it
You have to make
completely
your
breaks
mouse
console
pointer
port. Like
be
it's
well, you have to be like for me for Ring of Peace, it's not where my mouse is going to be, but you set the option that your mouse cursor is at your cursor on whatever you put your cursor on the screen, and you can have that
Mhm.
cursor viewable, and you have to point. You basically have to turn your character and point to
Yeah,
where
put
you
your
want
reticle
that thing to
over it.
go, like to your to
Yeah,
your
and then you
cursor
just make sure
reticle.
that every time you move, your cursor snaps, your mouse snaps to
But
your
you're it's
reticle.
always snapped to the
Yeah,
as long as you're
and so
moving, it's
the
snapped
thing
to the
about it not
center.
being native is it relies on like game events, right? To like do those things, and so that it doesn't always snap. And so sometimes you can get a misclick of something because your mouse isn't snapped to the center reticle.
If
Your
I
cursor
clicked on
isn't there.
something different, right.
and
There's
and
some
sometimes in
finessing in some of that,
conversation, and especially when the vehicle menu comes up, right? Like vehicle menus change a lot, and I think add-ons have had a really hard time integrating with them,
Mm.
and rightly
It's
so
the
because
you
they
have to
don't do a
use the
lot of
circle.
support. Yeah.
Right.
So
For me, I have to use the circle. It's basically you hold both triggers down and it brings
yeah.
up a ring menu, right? And then
Hmm.
usually it's the top one. Whatever is going to be
Genuinely,
your hot
it
your hot tooltip or your hot thing or whatever, your secret button,
so
your
people
your
think that
extra action
this is
button is going to be the very top. So it's like super easy for me to flick up and hit it.
sure, you can do this could be a controller problem, right? This could be a UI problem, this could be a software problem, this could be something that Blizzard has to develop on this end, right? But we're attached to Microsoft now. So like we can also resolve this issue with um a Microsoft, like an Xbox controller that has a touchpad on it in the same way that the PlayStation controllers do, but it has PC support, because those controllers from PlayStation, they don't have support. They don't have driver support for that touchpad. For it functions like a mouse. It's got two clicks and it's got a touchpad, right? Like you can move across the screen and then left and right click very easily with this touchpad that's like attached to the controller, but the driver support isn't there, and Sony is a terrible company and I'll never buy anything from them. But hey, I've, I've had a vendetta against them since I was like 14. I bought like 3 CD players from them in a row and they all broke, and I got mad about it. So I've just held a grudge forever.
Word.
So, but outside of my personal grudges, I don't like that they don't openly have support for that. But I think that Microsoft would support that, obviously, right? On their Microsoft, on their Windows computers, if they were just develop the hardware for that. And that right there would resolve a lot of the issues. Now, granted, is natural like native controller support much better? Absolutely, build that. Definitely build that. Don't stop. But if in the interim we had a controller that had a mouse attached to it, like yes, yes, like that's what we need. Most of the time, reaching for a mouse is really lame. But if you put it onto the controller, I promise you, it's going to be a much better solution. But a temporary one,
I'll
right?
say this. I'll say this. In a fight on my monk, I do not ever have to touch my mouse during a fight ever. The only time I ever have to touch my mouse is if I need to click on a quest thing, and you can change that so you can actually
Yeah.
like use your left analog stick to go through like quest text and stuff like that, menus and stuff. Or if I'm trading somebody, it's just way easier for me to use my mouse, to like open up my bag, you know, click and drag the thing over, right click, whatever I have to do.
When you have
That
too
type of
many
stuff.
windows.
Yeah,
If
when
you
you
have too
have
many
too
windows
much
open, the
windows going
mouse
on,
it doesn't know what to do, and it
it's
gets
yeah,
confused.
you having to move the cursor around the screen, and it
Some
gets kind
parts
of janky.
of the UI for like let's say like the dungeon queue system, right? Like it doesn't work. Here's the thing. One of the things that I had thought about was while the controller for console port is done really well, and that guy's doing an amazing job, I had thought about it to myself. It was like, if I really want to take advantage of this and use this in the way that would be really comfortable with a controller, I would basically take the Elv UI approach and reskin. I would try my best to draw it like that it made it look like the default UI, but I'd reskin and reimagine every single UI, every single window to a full screen window. So like it would just be full screen. Everything would be full screen. You go into menu, full screen. You go to vendor, full screen. Whatever, right? Like, is that a experience that you get in WoW? No. Is that an
Well,
experience you get on a console? Yes. Right?
right.
Like,
If you made the menu screens that were like B was back, A was
then there would
forward,
be no
right?
confusion.
Right.
There wouldn't be 3, 4, 5 windows open up at once. There wouldn't be overlapping anything. There would be a lot of control over the UI and
Yeah.
where things could path through using
Yeah.
up, down, left, right. Right? You know what I mean? It's just that's obviously not within the purview of what he wants to do with that add-on, and that's totally
Well,
fine.
and
But
he
I
doesn't
thought about
know
redoing that. You know?
these companies that do that stuff, PlayStation, Xbox. I come from a QA background, and all those games, when you submit games to all those consoles, they have strict they have restrictions on how your controller interacts with all the menu, and so the player automatically knows this is forward, this is back, this is going to be
Yes.
destructive action, this is yes, this
Yes.
is no, and they are hard about
Consistency is
that stuff.
key. Because it
Yeah,
should be
yeah,
intuitive across
right.
the
It should
whole
be.
environment, like the entire ecosystem. Everybody should always understand how to
Yeah,
do those
and
things
it's
intuitively.
going to take that. It'll take that work.
Yeah,
Regardless if they
I think
work
it'd be
with
worth it.
with him on it or they do it themselves, they're going to
Or,
have to.
or like I said, an add-on developer just goes in and
Hmm.
redoes and just says, and it's a concession. As a player, you have to concede that you are not going to be able to open up multiple windows at the same time. You can probably still move around, like it's not going to restrict movement, but you're not going to be able to see anything. Maybe we can make
Right.
the window in the background sort of transparent, semi-transparent, so you can see the
Yeah.
world a bit. But it's not gonna.
I
I think it's
I'm
better to
not about
have a full window.
I'm not about working on the auction house with a controller.
I mean,
I
for
still
now,
got to type. Well, you still got to type. You still got to type though. That's the biggest thing is you got to search for your items and stuff, and that's going to require keyboard.
I've seen people come up with really clever ways to type things really fast on on limited hardware. So like if you go and click on the search bar, right, and you're gonna type something, not only because you have your controller on, if there's a system built in and you have control over the UI, you're not gonna be worrying about other things coming up. So if the
You
player
know,
goes there, you can just open up a menu that like
dude.
your buttons are shorthanding for
Just put a
typing.
mic into the controller, hit the
You
mic icon,
can
and be
do
like,
that, but then
"I
it
want this."
depends on hardware, and some of the text to speech stuff isn't that good or whatever, right? But like you could definitely things that I think about is like a watch, a touchscreen watch for Android or iPhone. I've seen some really interesting typing things that aren't just like a little space for you to draw the letter.
Just like
There's
a
other things.
shorthand type of thing,
There's
or what?
like yes, like where it's like a weird shaped little keyboard, but it's intuitive for people and they're very able to very quickly type things out, but you would
Yeah.
never be able to fit a full normal keyboard on that screen. So they come up with different ways, right? Like I think that people are really clever and they've come up with cool ways to do that. And I think that if you have more control over the UI, like what I'm saying is you rebuild the UI into a full screen experience, then you're allowed to do things like that, where you go into the menu or where you hit search. And normally, this is where you start typing on your keyboard. Something visual shows up, and you can very quickly choose letters and such or whatever, right, from your
Right.
controller. You know,
With
your
the
controller snaps to it.
Right, and with the system that also is like trying to see what you're trying to type, that allows you to like, oh,
Oh
it
yeah, a little
recognizes
predictive
that you
text
you
would be
want the
nice.
predictive text. Yeah,
That would be nice.
you're looking
Yeah.
for this, then you can just hit, space bar enter, right? Or not space bar enter, but whatever the whatever the button
It's some
combination might
keybind
be for that
combination in a
thing,
controller.
right? Right.
Yes, see those are the things, the kinds of solutions that I think we can get, but that's like a middle ground thing, right? Because
Oh, yeah, dude, they gotta worry with
once they
they
do
gotta
it natively, I think we're in a good position.
user experience designers need to unite on something like that. you
I
know?
think it's coming. I think based
Yeah.
on what Holly
It
Longdale
will. It
said,
will.
based on what Microsoft is doing with the Xbox experience going into the future, how they're
Yeah.
building the next console. I think Blizzard, like we talked about last episode, being the flagship model that they're going to base basically all their other games and subscription models on. Like I think that like Blizzard is the front of this, is taking the helm now, right? Like Blizzard's driving, not in a literal sense, right? Like obviously Microsoft is driving, but like Blizzard's example is driving like this culture forward for what Microsoft is doing with their gaming division. It is what it seems, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know that they're
Microsoft is
really
cool if
investing more in anybody else.
they just let give them the money, let them cook. Let them go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And they're already in a position to do what they want to do with all their other games, which is exploded out into everything else. They wanted to just jump from gaming to movies to anime to novels. We already got novels, right? Like and graphic novels, but they want more. And maybe not just graphic novels, but more graphic novels. Maybe not just novels, but more novels, right? And then they want to take that same formula and apply it to their other really successful IPs. Yeah, I think they're trying to use Blizzard as like an example of what they want to go with going forward.
For sure.
Obviously, the
Smart.
answer is to bring back the ASCII GameCube keyboard controller that was used for
I've never.
Phantasy Star Online. I put it in the
Oh,
host chat.
okay. I'm gonna take a look.
Fantasy Star Online. I can't
Oh
believe that game's
my
still running,
god,
dude.
And yes, that does exist. That
is that real?
was a real yes. It was released by ASCII,
Dude, that's
and it
ridiculous.
was exclusively for Phantasy Star Online.
You just put a controller halves on the left and right side of a keyboard. That looks silly. It
Well,
looks like an April Fool's joke.
It does, but it is 100% real.
to move forward, we got to get off the controller stuff. I'd talk about the
Yeah.
controller stuff all
No,
day, but
for sure. So, news item, the next one, we are looking at midnight hotfixes for April 9th, right? And we've got the Monk, the Brewmaster, they got some nerfs. Windwalker, they got some nerfs as well. Fist of Fury, cleave damage increased from... no, sorry.
oh
Brewmaster
no,
got a
I got
nerf
some
and
buffs,
Windwalker got a
bro.
buff. Fist of Fury, cleave damage increased from 54 to 60%. Rogues, Assassination and Outlaw. Assassination got a buff. Garrote and Rupture damage up 5%. Phantom Knives and Crimson Tempest up 10%. Caustic Spatter up from 18 to 20%. And Outlaw Rogue, this is one I play, overall damage is up 4%. But Blade
I think
Flurry
they,
Cleave was reduced.
I think they need to go a little bit higher on those rogues because like subtlety right now is like beating both. Subtlety is kind of crazy. Like, it's the spec
Yeah.
to go into from what I've seen. I don't currently play a rogue right now, but it's definitely topping them, in the overall, list, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
kind
You
of
can see
kind
them
of
kind of
crazy
low.
because I always saw outlaw as like kind of like more of like the raid, more of the raiding spec,
Meta.
let's say. Yeah, and so just to see assassination subtlety over that, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. It's
But
interesting. The flip there.
go ahead, keep on going. Sorry.
No, you're good. Well, last one on the list is not even classes. It is a hotfix, but it's for professions. Green Thumb now correctly doubles midnight herbalism nodes. It was not before. So if you respect into that, you should see that fix coming through now. It was as of the 9th they hotfixed that. Yeah, so like you got some buffs. Rogue's got a little bit of buffs, but I still think they're probably on the low end. But I'll probably give it a shot coming up. We do have Devour Affix now includes a snare effect. There was something here about notably this is removed by Druid Shapeshifting, Demon Hunter Vengeful Retreat, Hunter Disengage, Mage Barriers, or Ice Block, Monks Tiger Lust, Paladin Blessing of Freedom, Priest Fade with Phantasm, Rogue Vanish, Shaman Spirit Walk, Warlock Demonic Circle with Soulburn, Warrior Berserk Rage with Fearless.
Ooh, that's
All of those
big.
classes are able to get rid of a snare, and Devour having a snare now means that you can participate in that now, right?
That's huge. That's
So,
huge. That's going to help
yes,
out so much.
I think that it's going to be very smooth for the
Yeah,
Devour weeks.
healers. Yeah, healers rejoice.
Yes, definitely.
What that means is you guys are going to have to actually use your abilities, those who are listening, because
Oh yeah,
not rely on the healers to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, now you got to do.
I know it's horrible.
Play your class. Holy shit. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I've said it a couple times already. This one.
You just beat that. Holy beep.
Yeah, right. So the next one is actually a little bit more news from something we had covered the last episode. There's a vendor at the end of some delves, and I believe it's like anything over a 6 or something like that. It's vendor Zaron, and for this new thing, that one you had to get to rank 5, right? And we were kept at rank 4 for the Delver's Journey, which is like the progress, the reputation system for that, for a bit. Once people were it unlocked and they went to 5, they found that Zaron shows up in I think it's like a delve, anything tier 6 or above or something like that, and he'll sell you champion gear. So that's pretty cool. That's nice, not bad. He cycles through. It's random every time that you see him. However, once you reach rank 9, you also unlock Zaron to show up at the end of every tier 11 delve, and he'll be selling hero gear if you do that. So we have the ability to get hero gear out of delves, which is kind of crazy. But I think you still have to get all the way up to rank 9, and you still have to do a tier 11. It's the hardest one that they offer. And I don't know if you still have to have like lives left at the end of it when you get to the end, but I mean, you just have to get it done. So I don't think that's too big of an ask or too crazy to give people hero gear for completing it, because I think we also get mythic crests from like 3 of those a day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm curious. Now is the delve hero tier, or not tier? Sorry, the delve hero gear, is it it's just higher versions of the blue and the just like the regular delve gear, basically. It's separate from dungeons and stuff like
If you
that,
go to
right?
the article, they show you a list of the items actually.
Because I remember, back in the day, when they first introduced delves and stuff like that, there were I think some trinkets, or there were some items in there, but you could only ever get them up to like a blue level. You could only ever get them up to like a champion level, and or and so another thing was going to beat that item. But if that item was at a higher level, then it would be a best in slot item. Like, it would be interesting for Blizzard to even possibly do something to be able to give mythic versions of that gear, so it could possibly, you could have one piece that was possibly best in slot, but you had to get it from delves, like
Yeah.
it just like catapulted you up, good enough where it's like, yep, and I gotta do 11s, or maybe even increase it. You gotta do 12s, 13s, to get some mythic track gear. I know not everybody wants to do delves, but there's some good items that do occur there, and it's like, dang, man, I wish that I could get that at like a 279 level.
Yeah, it does look like the gear, because I'm looking at it on Wowhead, is delve gear that you can,
Oh, yeah.
it's just higher eye level delve gear.
Right. And
And I believe random stats.
I don't.
Well, on Wowhead, they're labeled as random stats, but they're probably going to be
Okay.
rolled for your class and spec.
Yeah.
Right. So they're generic, right? So you and somebody else is going to get the same gear, like gear name, and it's going to be a hero piece at like 2 out of 6 or something. But you're probably going to have a different set of secondary stats than they are.
Right, like on some of the trinkets I see, yeah.
depending on your class, right?
Yeah. So it's a really short list. It's not a lot,
Mhm.
which this is good though, because this means that you can just run the T11s until you get a roll on him that you want, right? You just need to see him, 2 or 3 times before you get that one cloak that you're looking for. You can just take a look at the table, say, hey, I could really use a hero, chest right now. So let me just go and do these tier 11s until he shows up, and there's probably a much better chance of getting a chest from him than there is, like, especially when you're done on your weeklies and you're done on your chests, and the only other way is to just like genuinely randomly roll at it from like mythics and stuff, and you probably not get anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So this seems nice. We had this for champion gear. They were doing this for champion gear, for getting to rank 5, getting to rank 9. Looks like you're opening up for hero gear. I don't know that they're going to do that at a higher level for mythic gear. I doubt it. But this is good. I think this is really good for your alts. Also, unlocking tier 11s and your Delver journey, that's all warbound, right? So like you do it all and you earn it all on something, and you don't slow down or have to start over when you go and level up your alt. You can just jump right in, maybe even go in with some friends because you're a little under geared, and you all just knock out a tier 11, and you get one of your friends some decent gear, but that's another thing too. You have to run 8, 9s, and 10s and 11s to get untainted mana crystals. Um, so the tier 11s are like the higher chance, or the only chance that you have a gear of him showing up and like offering you gear. But 8, 9, 10, 11 will drop these untainted mana crystals, which is currency to buy those items. You can also buy it for undercoin, but undercoin is like, I don't know what the rate is for drops on either one, but undercoin is like 3,000 undercoin for the thing, or 250 untainted mana crystals for the same thing, right? So there's like, it's like 10% of the cost. So I don't know what the drop rate is. I don't know if anybody's figured that out yet, but kind of just go through the 8s to 11s. Probably just stick with 11s so you get the most, and just see where you're at with your currency, and then use whatever you think is best. So one of the things we gotten was the Luora memory game add-on via Northern Sky raid tools. I think we were actually talking about that at some point in the Discord. So that would be something that we might be requiring for everybody to download, so that we can coordinate the memory game once we get to Mythic, especially if we get there on Heroic pretty soon. We might need the add-on at that point as well.
I don't know how they've brought down. I haven't really looked at the nerfs, like any nerfs that are, after the World of Raid first. Maybe you guys know a little bit more about that. I thought they possibly would be lessening the runes, right? For the people that came after. But correct me.
I at least haven't seen anything yet. I know they nerfed Bellerin, at least for non-mythic difficulties. I can't remember if they did for him on mythic as well, but at the very least on non-mythic. But as far as the aura, I haven't seen anything.
There's a little bit of extra setup with this add-on though, because of the icons. You do have to download them from the GitHub, place them in your interface folder, and instead of interface add-ons, you put it in interface icons. You
Right.
know, and it's a little bit of an extra step. And I think that for normal guilds, it's like a big ask, but we are a Mythic Prog guild, so we do have. I think that there's maybe a higher standard that we should hold our raiders to. I'm not really sure. I know that there wasn't a definitive answer given in the Discord, so I don't know what we're going to end up doing, but we can also just coordinate with voice. Like, it's not impossible. I think it would just be easier with the add-on, but I don't mind not having the add-on, you know.
I think if it gets to a point when we're doing this, I think we should definitely try to do the fight with callouts first and see how it goes for there, but be prepared to utilize the add-on, which, gosh dang it, Blizz, we're supposed to get away from this, but
Yeah.
the having to use the add-on, we've got enough technical people here. I think we could help anybody in the guild that was, wanting to utilize it. It would be great, and I know this is even more work on their end if they really want to put it out there for an installer that would, detect where you need to put it, and do all the stuff for players, and we shouldn't expect that, but it would be great. But
Like CurseForge?
yeah, CurseForge, or it has, because we have to go on GitHub, right? So it's not a.
It's just because it's something.
There are a
like,
bunch of TGA files. There are icons that are actually used for it.
Right, separate stuff.
and they didn't put those in the add-on folder. I don't know why they didn't put them in the add-on folder. Maybe it's because the add-on folder ignores certain file types, and you can't just put it on the table of contents file and have it load. There
Because
could
it's
be
like
a
a
number of
crazy
reasons.
workaround.
or the files are too large and it's not going to be hosted by some of the places like CurseForge and such, right?
Well, rereading it looks like it might actually be sort of overriding certain icons. For example, some of them, it's INV for inventory, underscore belt underscore 39A. There's also INV underscore pants underscore cloth underscore 38. So my guess would, and also UI major faction rocket. So it looks like they're overriding certain icons.
Like commonly misused or not used item.
Yeah. Now, why they're doing that, I really couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's like that in a place. Like, see, that's back to the whole war on add-ons. Like that's why I like
It comes
it's a
down to player
workaround.
affordance, like the time that
Yeah,
they
dude.
give players, and they made a promise to give us more affordance, and they messed that up on this one.
Right. Even Max says that the raids should be developed for everybody to have an ability to run in the race to world first without the programmers. Everybody should be able to have that option, and we're not seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's from the top guild in the world. That's from basically the guild leader from the top guild in the world is saying they shouldn't make it so we have to create these add-ons, and everybody should be able to have the ability to beat us without add-ons.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really that's just such a grounded answer from a guy who's at the top. It's crazy to hear somebody up there,
he
like,
respects. Yeah, he respects all the other guilds. You hear him all the time. Yeah, he's very like, yeah, they're kicking ass, but he's also very humble about the experience, and he recognizes the 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 money and the resources that they have that other guilds just can't even compete. Cannot.
Having a realistic perspective on what allowed you to win is pretty cool. I like that. I like that and
Mhm.
that because of the fact that he's such a prominent figure is able to use that platform to like speak up and say something. It's like, hey,
Absolutely.
maybe we don't win next year because somebody, it's a more even playing field.
Right.
I like that. I like that they're doing that, or
And
that at
and
least he has that perspective.
and it's good that he also talks directly with Blizzard, on a consistent basis, and
Yeah.
so I'm sure he's saying that same exact thing, um, you know guild to Blizzard, right?
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of the guild, we're on heroic Ilaria, so we're about to move into Mythic, which we're kicking up the recruiting into overdrive. We really want to get people in here, want to get a full raid team in. So if any of our listeners are really thinking about it or jumping in, right now is probably the best time because we're still progging through heroic. We're still going to be running heroics. We're probably going to jump into heroic March on Quel'Danas at some point, right? Like pretty soon.
I would hope next week. I hope we get there
Mhm.
next week. I
Yeah.
would at least like to do Belleron,
Mhm.
in our run.
Yeah, I think that would benefit us. Also, once we're up in the Mythic and we're doing Mythic runs, I think it might actually benefit the raid to spend 10 minutes getting to that lieutenant on Mythic to try to farm a BOE that week, and then just running the rest of and then just going back. Right, one shot, give it a shot. If we don't get it, we get something, whatever. Right, and then we can just go and run the rest of our run because at that point we should have our full mythic team of 20 to be able to do
Right.
stuff like that. But yeah, as far as our heroic prog, I think we got all the way down to phase 2, was like 61% on Alaria.
Yeah, I think let me double check the numbers. Of course, Warcraft Logs doesn't want to load, but around there, yeah.
Is there anything that you think that like our guild needs to focus on more to like prog into the next phase? Or is we just like cleaning up? It's like it's all getting work done. It's just,
Well, I think
Phase one. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the one thing that I do, I've been doing this for a long time, is with guides and stuff, is just watch it and rewatch it and rewatch it just to um, not just learn more from it, but just to relearn from it. Get it in your head until it becomes sort of uh, 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 just natural to you. You know, doing it, that's great. And we all learn from doing it, and that's important. It does take practice, not to take away from that, but just reiterating it in your head and re-going over it, understanding how the phases work and stuff like that. Um, or and even take a look at your talents. Maybe you need a little more extra survival. I know that I was looking at my talents after our run and saw some that I could change, that I could still do um, AoE in order to keep myself alive, since I'm taking the one boss in phase 1 all by myself. Everybody, including the healers, are with Scourge and everybody. And so, but when we get into the second phase, by changing a certain talent, I can have better defensives against the single target fight between whether it's Illyria or the Rift Void guy.
Stimulacrum.
Simulacrum, yeah, thank you. And so just take a look at things, rewatch it. Not just ready check pools. I know that Methods Guide is really good as well for the heroic. So I think just go over it, understand it. I know people are also having trouble uh, seeing what the arrows look like, so really pay attention to that in the videos as well. And
An arrow can snipe you too, though. They got range, and
mhm.
if somebody points it and you don't scan the, I mean, but because of the dance, we're not having people scan. We're just having those people point the arrows out.
Right.
You gotta have your head on a swivel in that fight, like constantly
Yeah.
watching, especially with it's not just the purple silver arrows, it's also the people with their circles, right? That are like, pulling it's almost like pulling a bow, right? It's like
Yeah.
pulling a bow to like move your
It
triple
zigzags
arrows that are gonna
between
go out, right?
the ricochet.
Yeah, yeah. Not the ricochet. No, I'm just saying just those you
Oh,
get those
the 3-point on the
even in
circle.
phase 1. Yeah, yeah, it's like
Yeah,
just to
the
make phase
3-point
1
arrow on the
like
circle, and then it's
mhm.
like 3 arrows that will go in that
Yep.
direction.
And
But then
sometimes you'll
also
get
the ricochet is like something to really manage
yeah, yeah. You
because you
you
want to
just
hit
have to
everyone.
yeah, you gotta you know what? It's like
It's a lot of really precise repositioning, right?
it is, it is. Being close quarters is definitely helps with that. And recognizing that, oh, there's the arrow coming off of me, not just towards me, but off of me. So it's hitting that next person there, right? And the adjustment of getting all of those ads hit, especially in that second phase, um, is super important.
How do we actually manage that with only 1 DK?
You mean pulling the ads?
Yeah.
We actually have 2 because we have Scourge, and I know Forge Fiend was on his DK.
Okay.
One of
But
the
is this
things,
typically like a 3 DK fight, like because of that mechanic there, where we got to get those ads all grouped up?
yeah, I think it's like 2 or 3 DK. Another thing to remember is that you can interrupt them as well, and that'll help snap them and get
Yep,
them to
it'll
where they want to be.
pull them to the towards. Yep, bring a piece, interrupts. Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing we can say to our raiders is make sure you interrupt. I mean, I'm even turning around and using Avenger's Shield just to help with interrupts and everything whenever I
The
can.
interrupts are brutal when they're not caught.
Hmm.
Oh man,
Yeah, because it puts a
that's
dot.
hard.
It puts dots on people.
We get a lot of people dropping right after that, so that one's like really important. And as a healer, I can't even help anymore. They took our
Yeah,
interrupts away, so it's all on DPS.
we need like 3 shamans all with wind shear,
Dang.
Yeah, it's a
but
tough part of the fight.
yeah.
But that we progged that in like 2 days, right? Like so that was
Hmm.
pretty good. So I think next week,
And
we're gonna have pretty good.
we 3-shot Vanguard.
Yeah, that one's like a difficult fight. Very complicated, a lot of moving parts. It's You're always shuffling and you're trying really hard to stay stacked. Um yeah, there's a lot of movement, so if you're a caster, good luck.
I don't think our casters are having a problem in the DPS area. If you had
Yeah,
to ask me, man, the freaking warlocks and the warlocks and the mages are just blasting.
yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing great.
Buttercup at 100 for 39K. Gifts at
Ooh,
151. But
A
they
lot
are.
of that is a lot of that is also based upon a lot of the first it's like that first phase is where most of that DPS really comes from, at least in the Valeria fight. And
Mhm.
it's like sometimes I know uh Scourge is dealing with the raid and the movement at but there's like some of those void ads for, like you said, one night temp, they just want to go towards you. They just
Mhm.
like they're just gonna funnel towards you, and so we lose some on that first, and I can definitely see, like, you know those little ads and that stacking that debuff, man, can mean like 100 or 200 k DPS.
Right.
there's a big
Right.
difference.
Yeah, it's a huge
I
difference.
mean, for the outlaw rogue, if I hit blade flurry and we got a pool of like 10 or more ads, like now all of a sudden my DPS doesn't look ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere in the pack now. I mean, I might be at the bottom of the pack still, but I'm like with the pack instead of being way below. But outside of like AoE, it's trash.
What I've been waiting for, I wait to pop my cooldowns on that fight now. It's like Don't pop them right at the beginning. You just wait. You wait until that ad gets a couple of stacks, and then boom, then pop everything once he's gonna get all that debuff, and then you're just gonna just slam them down. Same thing with the next ad. You do that on the first ad, then save your next set of cooldowns on that second ad, and then the third ad, you just wait for them to get the stacks, and then you pop them. Don't use your cooldowns right off the bat. Chill for a second, and then pop the cooldowns.
Right.
Have you liked having the augment evoker in the raid?
Oh yeah. If we have the two Aug evokers, that's what Liquid ran with. They ran with two Aug evokers to cover as many people as they can, especially the hard hitters. Yeah, I think it's super beneficial. It's why they're one of the top specs right now. They're really
The
helping
utility
everybody else
is
pump.
Yeah, especially I know they were doing some changes on Bellerin because the Aug Evokers were just absolutely causing the DPS to just smash them, and so that they weren't going through the 3 eggs instead of 2.
wow.
Yeah, good coordination between the two Augs, together. To split their stuff up is really essential.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Well, hopefully we still have two Augs when we get into Mythic, because that sounds like almost like it's just imperative that we don't go in there without that. Like it's like almost like a necessary, how to say, like buffs, right? It's like, okay, well, we need to have a paladin, we need to have a druid, we need to have one of these classes so we can at least get all our full raid buffs and not be falling behind on anything.
Right.
Do we have a priest right now for stamina?
We
Yeah,
have
I
love
love
taps.
taps. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, wonderful.
Mhm.
It was just terrible if like one of them doesn't show up though, right? It's like, damn, that's our only priest.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that'll do it. We'll get this wrapped up now. This was a great conversation. We had a lot to go over. There was a lot of news. We spent a big portion of it on the technology side of it in the beginning, but hey, it's a wonderful conversation. I think a lot of our listeners, you know, their interests align. So I imagine they're gonna find
I
that.
think it's enjoyable. It's an enjoyable
I would
conversation.
appreciate it too.
Yeah.
If you ask me personally, I might be biased, but
Yeah. But it's good stuff to cover, and like I had said earlier, a lot of these things they end up affecting the industry, and then in turn they end up affecting the company that runs this game that we all love. So these are things where I that's why I really enjoy the panel that we have here. So everyone here has quite a bit of knowledge in these different areas within the technology and the ecosystem, and just kind of just overall video games. And I mean, Shaq, with your professional experience, and Templar, you've got a lot of technical experience, you got a lot of knowledge. Like these things end up being really good conversations, I think, for our listeners. So it's again appreciated and I think it's really good conversation today. So before I go, I want to let you know that we appreciate the support for the show, and the best way to do that is through our Patreon. Every bit helps us keep the lights on, improve the production, and keep this going every week. You can find us at patreon.com/lastattemptpod. And if you can't spare the gold, that's totally fine. You can still help in a big way at no cost. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Drop a rating, 5-star rating if you can, and a review. Love to read those. Biggest thing you can do is to help us find new listeners, right? You have any friends or family or anybody who also plays World of Warcraft, or people who even used to play World of Warcraft. You can send them this podcast. They might listen to it, on their weekly run, or on their commute to work, or on their lunch break or something, and this might get them back into it. Right, like we're always talking about all the cool stuff that we like about the game. We do try to keep it positive here. So I know there's an example of some others that like to say negative things about the game, but we love this game, and we want to bring positivity to the community. And so hopefully we can get some of those people back on the horse. So go ahead and send those out to anybody you can. We appreciate it. If you listen to us or watch us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment. The algorithm loves it, and so do we. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Last Attempt Pod on all of those platforms. Our Discord link is going to be at the bottom. And like I had mentioned earlier, we are still recruiting, and you can actually find us on Warcraft logs. Shakatan has his Battle.net account attached that you can message him. You can find Second Attempt on there. Why don't you give them those details, Shaq?
The details on
Just how to
the
contact you and how to find the guild.
yeah, I guess I could put it out here. My Battle.net is hashtag Zaelthras, which is ZAELTHRAS number 1691. That's a lot. That's a mouthful, but you can contact me there. You can private message me. You can also find us through the Guild Finder in game, and we look at our recruits there as well. We've gotten some recruits from there, but we look at that weekly and stuff. If you're curious, or just hit me up and let's have a chat.
All right, and yeah, so that's going to do it for us. But also, I want to point our listeners to our personal pages once again. My page, of course, twitch.tv/Squirrelthug_. I'm still working on getting in there. I really want to decorate my room before I go live again, but I don't have any viewers, so I should just do it anyways. So yeah, we're gonna figure out ways to get me to push me to do that. But that's if I'm streaming. That's where I'll be. I also thought about making one for the podcast and kind of making maybe a thing where while we're doing the live thing, or maybe just for the pre-show. Sometimes we have different conversations about other things, and maybe some of that can be up on Twitch right before we kind of go silent for the podcast, or even broadcast a podcast while we're doing it. I think some of that might be a little interesting. We can think about that.
I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool to stream the podcast. I'd be definitely down to get on video if you want to pull our videos and stuff. Into I don't know if you've got the internet clout to do that, but if you want to pull all of our videos and stuff into a stream, and then even people that are possibly watching the stream can ask questions and stuff, and maybe we can pull from that, from time to time. Then it ends up being like a 3-hour long podcast instead of a 2-hour or 1.5 hour podcast. But I'm for it.
yeah, definitely. You heard it here first. Breaking news: the Last Attempt podcast is upgrading. At some point we're definitely going to do something like that. I love that idea, and so pretty soon when you guys hear us announcing that we've got the Last Attempt podcast Twitch on here that you guys can follow, definitely make sure to follow that, because by the time we make that, then that we'll probably have some sort of schedule worked out where, or well, it'll be the same schedule as what we usually record on the weekends. We'll just be, I don't know, we'll have it maybe set up ahead of time so that we have consistent users, right? Coming and viewing. We'll try to stick to 5 o'clock or something, so that everyone can always kind of depend on that show running at the same time. We might go a little long sometimes, you never know. But
if you build it, they will come.
yeah, no, I love that. I love that idea. So, and then Templar, you've got a nice, really easy to read, easy to spell URL for us on how to find you, right?
Yep. If you want to catch me on Twitch while we stream our raids, you can just go to thehumandistraction.com, and that'll take you straight to my Twitch page.
Wonderful. That's great. We're going to have all of those links in the description for these episodes. We look forward to having anybody come in and join us. Actually, we had gotten a new person in the Discord. I have no idea who they are, and they didn't come in with one of the other links or something. So I think they just found us on the podcast naturally. So hey, that's really cool. Welcome in. I forget the name, so sorry about that. Let me just look it up, because it's not that far.
You're talking
back.
about the person that was in the welcome, right? In the general,
yeah,
that's
Kamal.
I'm trying to find a good. I'm here to be recruited.
Kamal. No, that was from our second attempt. That's from our.
Oh, okay.
from the
Oh.
last attempt, the podcast server, we had somebody named Skamal come in. Hey, welcome
Oh.
in. Take a look at the Discord. Get used to it. We got some cool stuff here.
Where are they? What channel are they in, bro?
They had just in Baron's chat in the one that everybody lands in. They had
Okay.
it said that they joined the server. So we've got a few people on the server, but that's actually our first probably viewer or listener, right? Because some of the other people, everyone so far is from chat.
Right.
Or not, sorry, not chat. Sorry, everyone so far is from our guild, and some people that I know privately. I got a couple Twitch streamers and some people I know in other guilds. I've invited them to be hosts and such. But yeah, this is like the first new random person, so it's really cool to see that. I started trying to post in some of the other chats so that it's not like super barren in there, because we do post in our host and guest chat and all the stuff that goes into what we do for the podcast here. I put notes and the images and stuff up there, so most people I think can see that. But yeah, it's cool to have people there. It seems like it's starting to grow. We really appreciate that. So definitely, check these channels out. Go and subscribe to our Twitch channels and stuff. We can always use the followers. Really appreciate that. And yeah, so I think that's going to do it for us today. This has been the 11th episode of Last Attempt, and we'll see you all next time. See ya.
Peace.
See ya.